Hello and welcome to Plant Pod. This is Rob Romej. We've got Brian Hook and Makenna Ayres, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about sabbatical because Brian just went on a sabbatical. Mm-hmm. And before we get into it, how are you guys doing?
Good.
I'm doing great.
How are you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I went on a sabbatical, so I'm feeling great.
Yeah. I was hoping that yours would be that much higher and more positive than our responses. Well, that's good. So right now we are in a series called Kingdom Perspective, where we are just trying to see what it would be like if you approach life as a Jesus follower from a kingdom perspective, the perspective in which God kind of sees things, and what kind of things can we do in order to keep that perspective all the time. And so I really think that the topic of sabbatical, resting, it is very much a kingdom thing, because in our world today, I would say that it's probably not that common of a thing to really take time to intentionally rest or take time to take a break. And so let's just take this time today to see what your experiences are with sabbatical, why you did it, and so on and so forth. So I think just to kick things off, was there anything that led up to your sabbatical? Was this your plan over the past few years, or did people talk to you about it? How did it all happen?
Yeah, the first time I ever heard about it was when I was at Hope Church, the church that started Aspire Church, and I was on staff there, and they were in a rhythm of taking sabbaticals. That was something that they gave not only to the elders, but to the entire staff if you were there a certain number of years. So that was in their employee handbook and rhythm manual, so it's very official. And so it really helped them to, I think, give people breaks, but also I think it just adds to the longevity of that staff member. Like when you have rested staff, rested leaders, it helps them get perspective on life, helps them do the things they need to do to be more healthy. And I think ultimately, it's not necessarily the goal, but I think people stay longer when they have that. So I think it was something to help people with their health. And because the ministry is stressful, not just for elders, but it's for all people. You may have counselors that just are constantly bombarded and never, ever getting a break, and they're putting in 60, 70 hours a week. And it's not that the stuff that we're going through is any worse than other people, but it is different. Mm-hmm. Things that we go through on a regular basis, you're carrying a lot. And so they put it in there, and that's where I got the idea. I didn't really know. I'd heard of sabbaticals before, and we'll probably talk about it here in a little while, but I didn't really have a good idea of what it was until I went to Hope Church and I saw it. And I saw people doing it. I was up for a sabbatical when I was at Hope Church, but God called me to plant Aspire. And so I didn't take it. I didn't feel like it would have been right to go on a sabbatical and then leave. I'd already told the senior pastor, Vance Pittman, what I was doing and where I was going and all that. And I'm not sure they would have let me, because I had already kind of divulged that I won't be here. Mm-hmm. And I think that has something to do, we can talk about that as well, the right time to do it and all that. So, but I'd never really heard about it. There had been a couple of times in ministry where I heard about a sabbatical being given, and it was really more of this person's really messed up, and so let's let them have a sabbatical.
So it's kind of like I would say maybe an unhealthy view or just a different perspective of what sabbatical is. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it was always, for me in the back of my mind, I didn't realize it until I actually took one, because some people in ministry asked me, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, why would they say that? Well, I guess that was kind of my view at one point, that, that's what you do to people.
Like a disciplinary action.
Mm-hmm. Let's let them have a sabbatical. Uh-huh. And usually they don't come back.
Just so everyone on the podcast knows, that is not what we did.
No.
You did not do anything wrong.
Make it very clear about
that.
But that was my view, which, I'm like, well, they do sabbaticals here.
Right.
And they do it on a regular basis.
Well, and I think I know the answer to this question, but this, in your 38 years of ministry, is this your first sabbatical?
It is.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
wild.
It's actually the first vacation over 1 week.
Okay, that's what was going to be my next question.
It's actually, it was not a vacation, but I had never been gone more than really about 9 days.
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
So
I'm not trying to brag about that. It's terrible.
So when you came, did you have the plan from the get-go as planning Aspire Church to like, hey, we should implement those same things that Hope Church had to do sabbaticals?
Yeah, about 2 years in, actually, when we hadn't even really started the service yet, I was feeling it. And I could tell that, wow, I really probably need a break. But I really passed on my sabbatical. And I think the excitement of the service, the momentum, the people coming to know Christ, getting into the routine of everything that was church planning, I think I just put it on the back burner and said, oh, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Just kept going. And COVID hit, and that was a tough one, and I think quite honestly, I think we all had a sabbatical, really. We had a forced sabbatical where we rested and watched Lion King. And nice. Probably not the healthiest, but we all took a break, didn't we?
Yeah, right.
And it was a very stressful time.
It's not really a break then.
Not really a break.
That's not really a sabbatical.
It was not
you're
intentional.
forced to slow things down, but it was very stressful.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine is not what you want.
It was stressful for us as a church, but in some ways, though, I would say we all did get kind of a physical break. There was a physical
That's true.
break of it, and it was
Now, that's probably because we didn't have to do as much physically setting
Yeah.
up and tearing down,
Yeah.
which we do on a weekly basis.
And this is for another podcast, but I think in some ways culture is still in that lull.
Yeah.
How many people do you call now that you get on a phone at a company now? You get a computer, or you're gonna have to wait 3 hours. People still haven't really returned back into work, and so as pastors, you had to, and whether you wanted to or not, we wanted to. We were only a year into our, public service. So, but that being said, I think it was, probably a year ago, I was starting to feel it, tired, needing to get away.
Did some people in the church recommend it, or did you have to bring it up?
I think I probably brought it up. And I think it was confirmed by you and Eric that it's a good thing to do. I think Jessica also said, "Wow, you need a break. It would be great for you to take a break."
And to clarify, when you say Eric, you're talking the other elders.
The other elder,
spoken to you and said that's a good idea.
Yeah, and it was just the rhythm of life. It was getting tired. I was tired. People closest to you know when you're kind of tired.
Right. So what would you say as a summary for what a healthy view of sabbatical is?
I think it's, you have it in a rhythm, whether it be every 4 years or 5 years, whatever that is, whatever it fits to the church. I think it's such an unknown thing right now. I think looking at churches that do it, it's typically 5 years, where you take a break. And typically it's more than 2 months. Usually it's 2 to 3 months, Some people that have been in ministry as long as I have in churches, you might have as many as 10 weeks vacation. So you could lump all those together and do a big vacation, but that's not what this is. This is not a vacation where you take time. You actually take a sabbatical. I don't think I've ever taken I haven't taken 10 weeks of vacation, but it's there if I ever needed to take vacation. But this is a time where you get away, and you get away hopefully with your family, and you spend some time together in prayer. You spend some time, especially if it's 3 months, maybe studying, maybe even writing a book that you wanted to. Maybe those are the 3 month sabbaticals that I've seen that are healthy. And you see people in the educational field take sabbaticals sometimes as much as a year, where they will take away and they will maybe study abroad, or and I think I don't know the history of that, but I think some of what we do as ministers are probably gleaned from the educational field, where they take a year away, and then you think about where you're headed. You might do some writing, you may do some studying.
But you're drawing a distinction. It's not the same as a vacation.
It's not a vacation. I think for me...
But is there still rest involved? Because I associate vacations with rest.
Yeah.
Even though they're
For
not
me,
always that way.
Mine was 6 weeks, and I can't tell you how many people said, well, that's just like a vacation. That's not very much time. But I think that for me and where I was in life and where we are as a church, it was a good amount of time. I think 6 weeks was good. I'd never done more than a week. I wasn't sure about it. There was some uncertainty involved. I think if I did it again in 5 years, which I will, I think I'd do 3 months. I think we'd be at a different place as a church. The newness of eldership, the newness of everything that's, of who we are as a young church. I think if you're an established church of 15, 20 years, you have some history there where people are used to it. I'm used to it. Staff's used to it. Church is used to it. I think there's a rhythm there that comes with it. So I probably would, in the future, do that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was really, as a result, to go back to the question, really a result of people closest to me saying, hey, why don't you? And I may even have mentioned it first. I may have opened that door of sabbatical.
I remember some other people within our church, just members, asking, hey, when are you going to get an extended time?
Yeah.
Like a sabbatical or time of rest, just that kind of talk. So.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll speak to the church planners for a moment. If you are a church planner and you are 4 or 5 years into that church plant, we would be 7 if you take in the small group development that we did for 2 years. You get to a point where you probably are doing things you shouldn't be doing. And you've taken on roles that you shouldn't be, you should be praying and preaching and looking at the Word and meditating on the Word, first and foremost, hearing the vision of what God has for your church and leading and discipling people. But I think we take on other roles, and you take on things you really shouldn't be taking on, and that'll wear on you. And if you're young, it'll wear on you. If you're older, it'll really wear on you. Typically, church planners aren't 58. So you do things that are like, wow, I know it needs to get done, so you just do it. And in my younger years, in the first church plant we did, you just do it. You begin to slowly give that away.
Physical things, setting things up, getting things out during the week,
ministry things, just taking on roles, just doing things. Like you think you have to be meeting everybody's needs. You think you have to be there and listen, and whether they're a church member or not, you feel like you need to visit them. You feel like you need to pick up the phone and call them back, and immediately. And the reality is, you have members in your church. Well, as a church plant, you're thinking everybody. You're thinking the entire city. Well, you don't have to be at everything. And in our city, there's also a lot of things going on with other pastors, and so you have a lot of meetings there. And so you have to say no to things, And if you're somewhat successful in your church plant, which I think we are as it relates to Tucson, there's a lot of people that want your time. And so they're asking about, how did you do this? How did you do that? And you feel like, if you're like me, you feel like you need to say yes.
Sure, right.
So you get worn out.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
I think that's for all pastors, but specifically church planners, because you are taking on roles that are not necessarily your job description.
Right.
Because you wrote the job description. Somebody did.
And you maybe added to it as time has gone. Well, maybe you can speak to some more of the church planners here with just saying, like, because it was 5 years after we started having like a public service on Sundays, is when you took your sabbatical, a little over 5 years. So leading up to it, what kind of things did you do how did you realize what you needed to hand off? You're going to be gone for 6 weeks. Like, what did that look like leading up to it? So that way other people who are maybe hearing this are thinking, how do I even get there? What do I?
Yeah, about 3 months in, I started writing down things that I felt like I probably shouldn't be doing. Like, finally, like, what am I?
Going through your whole week?
Yes. Like, what in the world am I doing? Like, I shouldn't be doing that. And writing it down. And then some of those things are things that you guys wouldn't know. You wouldn't know I was doing. Like, some of these things were surprising to you that I was doing. And you're like, whoa, I didn't know you did that. And so, writing those things down, it's very healthy because you're now looking at things you probably shouldn't be doing. And you're going to have to give it to somebody. Somebody needs to do these things. And you don't do it intentionally. It's just one of those things where you're like, I'm going to be gone for a long period of time. And so hand those things off.
Yeah.
And you have to look at it. And so writing those things down is what I did about 3 months in, beginning to meet with you guys about some of the things I was doing. Literally in a couple of instances, giving job descriptions to other people to take and to run with not only while I'm gone, but when I came back. What's the point of going on sabbatical and taking things back? So it's been a really good thing of letting go of things that I really should not have been doing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So looking back on it, that's probably one of the best, if not the best thing that happened during the sabbatical. I was able to let go of things I didn't need to be doing.
No, that's
so
good.
that preparation point of it, if you're a church planner, is very healthy to let go of those things. And then even though I let go of things, there's still some things that weren't done while I was gone. That's not to say that you guys didn't do your job or whatever. It's just there's some things that just fell flat, and that's also
I
a
guess
good
it
thing to
highlights
learn.
those areas. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with having things highlighted during your sabbatical that, wow, you were doing and now they're not being done.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know that if you didn't leave.
Right. So during your sabbatical, is there anything that you learned and that you want to like start taking that into more of a weekly basis kind of thing? Is there anything that you're like, oh, I don't have to wait every 5 years in order to experience this or do this? Like any takeaways from?
I think for me, it clarified some things that I always knew. I think the one thing that I really took away from sabbatical too is just the clarity of making disciples, and that that I wasn't doing it as much as I should have, and that's a bad thing, But if you go on a sabbatical, you're going to have things revealed, sins, things you're maybe doing you shouldn't be doing. To not make disciples and be a pastor is a sin. Like that was a highlight. It's not like, oh yeah, he's
Well, maybe that's to be a Christian and not make disciples.
I would say so. I say that was that's the basic thing. And I'm making disciples, but I wasn't making disciples in the capacity that I could.
Sure.
So yes, disciples were being made, but looking at it and going, wow, what if I did actually make 12 disciples on a regular basis, and then letting things go that are church things that I'm doing, letting those, and then trusting God that in my obedience, He would take care of building His church. That was very clear to me. Yeah. So I'm very new into it. I hope the church makes it, but I think it will. I think that, to me, do what I've told you to do, and then I'll build my church. And that was a moment of clarity for me. I've always thought, love your family, yes. Be a good husband, yes. I'll build my church. But I've taken some things, even with the building of the church, that aren't so much my responsibility if I'm not making disciples. So yeah, there's some things I need to be doing, but focus on making disciples, allow God to build His church. And then I'm also very committed to planting churches. And I think the one thing that was clear to me is, and this is across the board, no matter what denomination you're in, we're just really struggling. We, as denominations, leaders, networks, we're struggling finding planters. And so that's highlighted, that not finding church planters is a result of not making disciples. And so the disciples are there. You just have to make them. You have to work with them and talk to them and pour into them. The church planting piece of it is, that's a byproduct of making disciples. And so just making it very clear. And then also bringing that back to the church and just letting the church know, which I did. I let the church know that I needed to up my game in the area of discipling, and also almost in the same sentence saying, you do too.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing it, you're probably not doing it. Matter of fact, I know you're not doing it. And we all need to do this.
As you were speaking, I was just, as you were talking about kind of unloading some of these things that you've been doing that maybe has not been beneficial to you or the church to be doing, while also becoming more intentional about the things that you should be doing. I'm just reminded of Acts 6 when the Hellenists come before the Hebrews and say, you are neglecting the widows in your community and you're not serving them. And in Acts 6, verse 2, it says, and the 12 summoned the full number of the disciples and said, it is not right that we should give up preaching the word of God to serve tables. Therefore, brothers, pick out from among you 7 men of good repute, full of the Spirit and of wisdom, whom we will appoint to this duty. But we will devote ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word.
Good.
And I feel like that's a good maybe description of the roles in both parties involved. So for you, Brian, this kind of consolidation of duties into I need to be more intentional in making disciples, but then also it gives the opportunity for other members of the church to kind of step up into these roles and to be serving in a way that maybe they haven't been before because everything has just been taken care of because other people are serving and you are serving and you're doing these things. And so maybe it seems like there's not really a need, but it opens that opportunity for them to maybe step into a leadership position of service while you get to focus more intentionally on the ministry of the word.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's almost the same feel that you get when Moses is instructed by his father-in-law, right? To let go. You're doing too much.
Yeah.
And it's almost that same feel. Like, hey, here's something you should do. Why don't you hand off? Let go of this. And whether it's Old Testament or New Testament, we need to be focused on what we're called to do as leaders and to let other people do their roles as leaders as well.
I imagine
not do both.
That's pretty hard to do because you just want things done well, done right, and you have to hand things off. There's trust. It also sometimes takes a lot of upfront work. As you hand something off, you're going to have to sit there and take double the amount of time to train someone on what to do, but long term, it's not beneficial. But that sounds like a lot. Yeah,
and I think there is something there that probably need to say. We like to call that perfectionism. Like some guys are more perfectionists, and they say, "Well, I'm a perfectionist. I kind of like to have it done this way." I think I would say some of that is true for me. Like I want it done that way. But if we're honest and we step back, probably the things that you're focusing on that aren't yours to do, you're probably not doing it that great. Like you have to be honest and just say, you say perfectionist, but it may be perfectionist in your eyes. But if you give that to somebody else that is gifted in that or called to do that, they're going to do a much better job than you. And so we probably shouldn't pat ourselves on the back with the title of perfectionist when in reality you're so at it, really. You're not called to do it. Give it to somebody else. Let them.
I imagine that takes a lot of humility to just be okay with something being different. It might be better. It might be just different.
It's been fun to just come back and go, wow, that's better.
Okay,
that's better.
Cool.
That's better.
That's cool.
That's a lot better.
You want to point out all of the examples for us right now?
No. But to the point that you were making, Makenna, ultimately, how are you doing, Pastor, in the area of devoting yourself to prayer and ministry of the Word? Like you better be doing that right. Yes, we all as Jesus followers need to be doing that, but the leaders of the church should be doing that and teaching others how to do that.
Right.
That's good. So I think I was expecting you to talk more about like rest of things like when you come back, things that you learn that you want to do on a regular basis, but you hadn't really gone there. So maybe my perception of a sabbatical and having this restful period of time is off a little bit, or maybe you can speak to that. Did you find it a pretty restful 6 weeks, or?
I think some of it was.
Or maybe that's not the intent, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think some of it was. I think for me, I think it could be individualized depending on where you are in your life. You know what I mean? For me, it was 6 weeks. I think if I was doing a 3-month, I don't know if it'd be any different, but I spent some time by myself. I also spent some time with my family, a lot of time with my family. I think for those that are listening that are church planners, you probably have young kids. We have older kids, but it's kids nonetheless. And typically what you do in church planning is they typically get the leftovers. And so to go on a trip is good because you're giving to them. Like, so was it rest? Sometimes being a dad isn't necessarily restful, but it's the right thing to do. And for me, the sabbatical allowed me to pour into them and to be with them and to hang out with them. It wasn't like a long sermon every night. It was just being with them. And so, there was this hot tub at this place we were at in Whitefish, and just hanging out with my son Noah every night for, 12 days. That was kind of the thing we did. Like he's not real talkative, we just sat, we're just quiet. If he's listening, you're not. You're not talkative. But it's fun just to hang out together. And And it's okay to not talk. It's okay just to sit and to enjoy it. So having that time just to sit and enjoy and occasionally dialogue about some things is a good thing, you know?
And maybe our perspective of rest is skewed because, I mean, we're talking about sabbatical. Sounds a lot like Sabbath, right? Which is which is rest. And so maybe it is restful, but we don't always look at rest in maybe the same way that the world looks like at rest. Maybe it's not sleeping in and not doing anything at all and not having any agenda. Because I think about like Sabbath, I think sometimes like Nathan and I, we practice Sabbath on Saturdays, and sometimes there's work involved, but it's still rest for us because it's different work than what our jobs are, right? So maybe doing some work on the house is actually really restful.
Yeah, it was.
Because we're sitting behind computers all day and getting to do something with our hands, doing some painting or something like that. It is incredibly restful. And so I think rest doesn't always have to be, you know, what we think of maybe more like a vacation, like you were saying, Rob, where it's just, no agenda, and I'm just going to lounge and, you know, just kind of sleep all the time. I think there are other things that are equally restful, especially in the sense of like rest for our souls and and rest in like the sufficiency of Christ. Like I don't need to be or do anything additional because Christ is enough.
We can make sabbatical very legalistic if we're not careful. And we say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to put my phone away, and I'm going to do this and all that. And I think there's some rhythm to that, but you can't worship the rhythms. And Richard Foster's really good with talking about that in Celebration of Discipline, that you don't worship the rhythms. Don't worship that. You worship God, but God gives us opportunities as humans just to relax and enjoy. And sometimes there's work involved. Sometimes there's just hanging out together. For me, I'd stay up late with Noah and I'd get up early and spend time with the Lord. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I didn't get all the sleep that I may have wanted, but it was very restful and it was really uplifting. And there was an early part of our sabbatical where Noah was graduating. And to have that sabbatical and not have to preach and not have to do the things that I typically do allowed me to just enjoy Noah and enjoy the experience of getting a party together and helping Jessica get the party ready. And I'm normally not the one doing that. She's the one doing that. And so getting the house ready, picking up people from the airport that came in, not having to do those things was very helpful. Was it restful? There's a few nights I got 2 or 3 hours of sleep. We were going. You know, hanging out late with family and all that, but it really was energizing. So was it sabbatical? Yeah, it was. I was energized. It was fun hanging out with my son and daughter and their spouses that came in and to be able to hang out during that time. I never would have been able to do that, you know, normally. So that sabbatical, first part of it was, you know, pouring into my family.
That's
so
cool.
I look at it, I think, you know, my sabbatical I would define as family time, really. It was really time away to pour into people that have really poured into our church and have poured into me for years, you know.
That's good.
And I'm not a bad dad. I'm a good dad. I spent time with them. But I would say over the course of the last 7 years, they did get leftovers many times. Leftovers in that I'm just tired.
Right.
I'd love to do that, Noah, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and what I sounds like to me is, and Makenna, you talking a little bit about Sabbath. I think that just having the proper definition of Sabbath is really important. And this kind of sounds like an extended Sabbath in a lot of ways. I remember when I first started doing some Sabbath stuff, like there's a difference between treating your Sabbath like a day off and treating it more intentionally and calling it a Sabbath. Because I've done that where I've treated it like another day off and it's all about what I want to do and all about which there is an aspect to doing that, but there's something different when you treat it with the intentionality of what brings energizing. I think that's a good way to put it. Sometimes the things that are energizing are exhausting physically, you know, or tiring, and hanging out with community and stuff like that, or family. Well, that can be physically tiring, but it can be energizing. So I think that sounds kind of like an extended Sabbath in a lot of ways, which I think is really cool. If you just redeem that word.
Absolutely. And just a little word of warning for those that are thinking about a Sabbath. You know, we had a lot of time together as family, and we had a lot of time together with extended family. We had a lot of time together with just, just being with people, during that time. And I still went to church and all that. I think that, and this is what I've heard from other folks, to be careful about removing yourself from people during your Sabbath, because we're made, and you preach it, I preach it, we're made to be with one another. And Satan can really use that time for destruction if you're not with people. We're made to be with people.
That's a good point.
There's just something weird about not being with people.
Yeah.
And
Especially for that long.
There's a season where you are, but you have the example of Jesus in the wilderness. Well, that wasn't necessarily a sabbatical.
Yeah.
More of a
That
time of
was
Temptation. Testing.
Yeah, that kind of laid the foundation for the entirety of the rest of history, right? So I think that yes, fasting and praying and all that, but be careful about being by yourself. We're not called to be, just monastic by ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
There are some times, seasons where I did do that during the sabbatical. I was by myself for 3 days where it was just me. And God showed me many things, but I didn't let too much time go by by myself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's just not how I'm made. That's not
I
how
think-
we are made.
I think that's even important, not only just for extended, but when you bring it down to like if someone is doing a weekly Sabbath, of not getting too much into a rut of this is what I want to do with the day and it's all mine, no community. Like it's okay to have one or two of those, and especially if you're married, do that with your spouse or something. But it's also important not to get into a habit because then it becomes about you.
Exactly.
I can see how the sabbatical,
very selfish. It can be, and you can get lazy too. I've heard some guys say that they just all they did is watch movies and Netflix and blah blah blah, and that's laziness, and that's wrong to do that anytime, especially on your sabbatical. So have some relationships in your life and have some rhythm in your life. Make sure you are reading your Bible. Make sure you are praying. Make sure you're around people. Do the same things you always do. There could be a season of 2 or 3 or 4 days where you get away and do something very, very different to spend time with the Lord. I think that's really, really important. But for me, it was a break from the things I shouldn't have been doing. I should have just... There's just a lot of things that I realize I shouldn't have been doing, and I have not picked it up. I've not gone back to it, and that's a good thing.
And honing on the things that you do want to
That
be
I
doing
should be
more
doing
of.
more of,
Yeah,
which is
good.
making disciples. And that was very clear to me. I wish wish God would have opened up the heavens and told me that right up front. He didn't really show me that until the very end, So I think at the end of this time together with the Lord and with my family, he did show me that making disciples was really a clear thing. And I say that, and a lot of you are going, well, duh, you've been talking about that for the last year in our podcast. But just because you talk about something doesn't mean you do it,
And I want to encourage you. You have been doing that. I think, and when you've been sharing, you just, it sounds to me, what I've heard from you is that you can do more of that. But I just want to encourage you, like you have been making disciples, and I just want to speak on your behalf. But
no, I appreciate it. I don't think anybody's gonna be like, "Ooh, Brian really confessed like he's been out of the game." I know that, but I think that for me, it wasn't the making of disciples; it was the clarity of doing just that, being a disciple,
being
and
more
making
focused,
disciples,
is what you're saying,
and allowing the other things, allow those things to be done by God.
Makes sense.
Through the Holy Spirit in the lives of people.
That's good.
That was clear.
Moving forward, say in the next another 5 years or however long and you take another sabbatical, is there anything that you would do differently or prepare differently or for the next one?
Yeah, I would probably get even further away. I think I would like to get out of the country. I think that would be good.
Cool.
I got out of the state, and that was good. Anytime
You're really close. You're almost in Canada there.
I know.
You went up pretty north.
Anytime I'm near my house or near the church, I began to think about church stuff. And I was here for a couple of weeks, and so I was thinking about, even the latter part of the sabbatical. I was here, and I'm driving by, and I'm like, well, how come that's not done? How come that's not done? Or thinking of people and calling people, and people calling me, hey, I heard you're back in town.
Yeah.
Telling me about, people that had gone to the hospital or had passed away. And I'm like, thank you for telling me.
Still on my
if
sabbatical.
they think you're here and they know you're here, you can't post anything or anything because that looks like Arizona. He's back. And so you have to just be mindful of that. So I would probably get out of the country. I think it'd be good maybe for a month, just get away.
Yeah.
I mean, you're out. You're not coming back. So I think also getting out of the state was good. I don't think there's anything wrong with coming back a few days early just to rest.
Yeah.
So I would not do any kind of house renovation though during my sabbatical. Next time I did that, we did a house renovation, and I did get a few calls from.
I'm guessing you got more than a few calls. I'm just guessing.
I did. I got a few calls from the guys doing the work.
Sure.
That I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But
even though I think you had given them my number, that I don't think they ever called me.
they never called.
They never did. They just called
Because
you.
this guy doesn't know.
Yeah. We're just gonna go to the guy who
Yeah.
lives here.
And I think there's also some great things that you can do on a weekly basis. Like 1 week, you could get away and maybe go to a camp, a retreat with other pastors, leaders. I think if I had 3 months, I would have done that. It would have been good to.
You just have to time that out too, because figure out when those are happening.
And I do think there's benefit to writing down some thoughts and things in 5 years. Maybe I would write an outline of a book and start something like that. That would be good. But I think you just people have told me just be careful about what you tell yourself you're going to do, because then you're not doing sabbatical.
Sure.
And I would have the temptation to say, okay, I can get this book done.
Right. Now you're just focused. You just switched all of your busyness to something else. Well, is there a time that you shouldn't? Is there any recommendations you would have? Is there any reason that you shouldn't go on a sabbatical? Is there a length of time that you think is important, like maybe minimums or maximums of what's...
Yeah, I think you have to ask the Lord, and you have to ask the elders that you're working with, leaders around you. If you don't have elders, leaders, deacons, leaders around you, to ask them what time that would be and submit that to them as well. Come to an agreement, because, sometimes it's not the right time to go on a sabbatical. Sometimes you might go on a sabbatical, and I don't mean to scare you, but your church may not be there when you get back. And if your elders are at odds and with each other, maybe you're not unified, maybe you are in some type of a transition role, and you've told them that I'm retiring in a few years and I'm going to go on a sabbatical here and all that, they may... I've heard of them speeding up the timeline on you, and there's some things that you really need to be in agreement with your elders, but at the same time, deep within you as pastor, you need to ask yourself, is this a healthy time for me to be going, or is this not a healthy time? And I think in those scenarios, it's okay to be gone a few weeks. Take 6 weeks or 2 months rather than 3 months, and maybe shorten it a little bit. Because you still need to get away. You still need to rest. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying you need to live in fear, but there are times when maybe the church isn't ready for you to be gone. 5 years into your first 5 years, that may not be the time to do it. You're still a baby church. You may not have the eldership that you need or the team around you that you need. There's some things even in our church where we're still working. We're a basic church. We're still moving toward a healthy church. You have to sense, what's the spirit of our church? Our church has a really good spirit. There's some times where you just sense, wow, I think I'm the only one that's going on the right direction here, and there's been times when, people feel that. It may not take 3 months. You know? So look at the health of your church. Also, if you are going to leave the church and you know it, don't take your 3 months, because it's in the program. There's too many times I've seen people take their 3 month sabbatical and then resign, and they knew it going in. If you know it going in that you're leaving, don't do that to the church.
Yeah, it's not a business.
Exactly.
That's what you would do with a job or something.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So you can get very regimented if it is in a manual and all that. And you look at it and go, I'll take my 10 weeks and then I'll take my 3 months. And you're not working at a corporation. This is
with
the
a
church
family.
of the living God.
Yeah.
And that's not going to look good.
Right. Yeah, it should go both ways, right? Like you should be able to leave, and people are going to take care of you and care for you because you're a family, not because
Yeah.
you're the head of a corporation.
Yeah.
In the same way, you don't want to treat them like you're a business or something.
Yeah. That being said, though, if you are on a sabbatical and you didn't have that intention, and God did say while you were gone, hey, you know what, this is the time to move forward, then that's okay. And, and there's probably some people listening
Sure.
where that has happened.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with that. But if you know going into it, don't do that.
Yeah,
That's
be
not
upfront.
that's not a man of integrity.
Now, before, I think you had said that you'd only taken like a week off or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And would you say like that you would do more time off on a regular basis instead
Yeah.
of waiting 5 years to do 6
Yeah,
weeks?
I would.
What kind of rhythm?
And this sounds so really bad because I mean you guys are leaders at the church. I just know that you're going to be okay. Whereas before I didn't. Like I really had in my mind that things would not. There'd be some dropped balls. Not you two, but I just knew that there would be some things. Probably if I'm gone 6 weeks, while the attendance would be down and the giving will be down, and I'm going to get 5 or 6 different calls from people that are going to say, "Man, you know, why didn't you do this? Why did this happen?" In the back of my mind, I thought that may happen, but it didn't. It actually was stronger. In many ways, the church was stronger when I came back because we had people that were from the outside speaking into them, which was powerful, saying good things about our church, saying good things about me. That's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing to leave and have other people in your city go, wow, you got a great pastor. It's good when leaders in your church preach for you and do an excellent job. That shows the church that you are doing it right. You have a teaching team and you're having a plurality of elders, and that's a good thing. The giving continued, which tells me that the church is not giving to a pastor. The church is giving to the mission, and that's a good thing. And they're committed and they're growing in their faith. I didn't think that things would just crash and burn in 6 weeks, but you know what I'm saying. I think that there are some things that I learned, and because of that, it's okay to take a month off. It's okay. I'm already thinking about maybe taking off June next year.
I thought maybe you were going to say September, maybe next month or something.
and not so much, calling it a sabbatical. That's my vacation. I'll just take it off.
Yeah.
I'll be gone. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the church is going to be fine. And matter of fact, the church probably is thinking, when are you going to be gone again?
Right.
Not because they want me gone, but because they know that I come back rested. And they want a rested pastor. People want their pastor to be rested. And they want to be shown examples of how you do it. You know, it's okay to be gone and to vacation.
Yeah.
Our church, boy, people take vacation all the time. But maybe not sabbatical, but for other reasons. But there's nothing wrong with that. And if people are taking off at our church especially, they would assume that you would do that to be healthy.
Right. Yeah.
So,
well, what's really cool, and I know that this is not the case for all churches, but we have had a few, people within our church that have just been really intentional about making sure that you, that Eric, that me, that other leaders, that people who are helping, like, hey, how are you doing? You know, when is Brian going to get a chance to take another sabbatical? What's the plan? Like, they do that not because they're critical, but because they really want to make make sure that you're resting. And I just think that's super cool that we have a family that cares about that.
I think the church is growing up and maturing, and I say all that about like fear of things not getting done. I say that for the people listening, the pastors listening, not for you guys. I really had confidence in our church. I knew that we were gonna, but there are some pastors listening right now that at times are probably thinking like I did, and that's, well, I think we can make it through this sabbatical. Like, that shouldn't be your attitude. It should be, this is part of what you should do to be a healthy church and a healthy person. Of course, you're going to make it through the sabbatical. You're going to be stronger as a church. And you should do it because you want your church to grow. You want your church to mature. If you're not gone and you're there all the time, you're not helping your church mature. That's unhealthy. That
makes a lot of
that's
sense.
somewhat dysfunctional.
Yeah. Were at any point in time during your sabbatical, did you experience some anxiety about the church? And if so, where did that kind of fall in the sabbatical? Beginning, middle, end, if you experience anxiety?
Oh, I would for sure say at the very beginning and very end.
Oh, both. The tail. Okay, the bookends.
Yeah, very beginning, because I'm like, oh, I'm leaving and these things aren't done, and oh my goodness, this is going to be terrible. And then at the end, where you begin to say, you just feel the pull, like it's pulling you back. It's like the ring on Frodo's finger. It's pulling you back. And I'm not saying negative toward church. I'm not saying you guys are Mordor. I'm just saying the rhythm of the humanity of it is pulling you back, and you have to fight it and go, listen, what has God shown you?
Were you tempted to, you know what, I'm here, why don't I just start why wait another week if my
I did do that. Yeah. Like, I did make some phone calls. I did make some
maybe
emails.
You shouldn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Checking on people. You know, oh, that person's in the hospital. I need to call them. This is important. Well, everything's important. Like, there's a lot of important things. And so you get that drive going again. And I think that every church planner out there, if you don't have that, you probably aren't a church planner. There is that drive, and you have to just say no to it.
Right. Well, I think that's good for people to be mindful. It sounds to me then the middle part was the part that you could maybe experience sabbatical for what it's for the most. And so just go into it knowing, hey, the beginning and end is going to be the toughest. It's good to know
6 weeks, you get 3.5 weeks of real strong rest.
Yeah.
3 months, you might get like 2 months.
Yeah. No, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any other questions? Anything else on sabbatical?
No, I'm not an expert. I did it once.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to do it as a church. I'm glad that you and your family were able to go, and I just think it was an important time, and it's been good. And I also think that it does just fit in with our conversations on Kingdom Perspective. Like, why would we even do that? You know, so it's good. It's good to talk about it. Good to reflect on it a little bit. And
thanks for letting me do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys did a great
We'll
job.
see if we let you do it again. I don't know. Maybe not. But